the sacrifices that I make for you good people, the viewer. So, I was going to work yesterday, and I'm working outside, and it's nighttime, but it's Georgia, so nighttime is still pretty warm. You want to have something cold to drink. So I go by the Walmart to pick up some ice. And I usually don't go by Walmart to pick up some ice unless I need something. And in this case, I wanted to get some candy. And they were sold out of the candy that I wanted because I wanted almond M&Ms. They didn't have any. But what they did have was the entire wave of the new Masters of the Universe Origins figures. And I bought all but Man-at-Arms. Because if you remember from my wrestling reviews, I'd mentioned that I'd pre-ordered Man-at-Arms, and I got 2 of the wrestling figures that I ordered off the app so that I would save money on shipping, and I wanted those wrestling figures anyway. So Man-at-Arms is supposed to get here, it says October 17th. And I figure if it hasn't already shipped, because, I mean, they might ship it early since they've got them in, and they've got them on the shelves. If it hasn't already shipped by the 17th, my plan is to go ahead and buy a Man-at-Arms, and, when I get paid. So, if I can still find them at that point. But, I kind of figured since I know I have one on the way, he's low priority, so. But the other ones I felt like I had to get, because you get them while they're getting good. Those things have been selling out so fast. So, they say eventually there's going to be plenty for everyone, but, why take a chance? So, I figure I'll start with Beastman. And what's funny is, so I got Beastman, and I got the 2 girls. I got Teela, and I got Evil Lynn. And you can see that, he's much bigger in the package than either one of the ladies, and he's much heavier. This is a figure that's got some heft to it. Which, I figure if I held He-Man or Skeletor... I got a Skeletor in the package. I can test this out. Yeah. He might even be a little heavier in the package than Skeletor. I don't know. But he does have that thicker armor. That might contribute to it. Let's go ahead and open him up. Beastman. Here's some nice artwork that's on the back. Really liking the artwork that's on these. Beastman looks really dramatic. That's really cool. And if you're a fan of the old mini-comics, there's a lot of Easter eggs in here. A lot of these beasts that he's controlling are from the mini-comics. Like, for example, this is the Manticore from the Dragon's Gift mini-comic. I'll let you guys figure out who all the rest of them are. But yeah, look at the Alfredo Alcala mini-comics and the artwork that he did. And looks like a lot of the creatures from his comics. So, it says, the ferocious Beastman uses mind control to force animals to do Skeletor's bidding. And then it's got, on the back, fit whip into hand. Twist into powerful battle positions. I think that's what it usually says. And you can see they've got the whip in his hand he's holding the hand guard. This whip is infamously reused from the Big Jim line, which were 9-inch action figures, and they had these hands that were shaped kind of like this, so they had to, have a thing to hold the thing onto their hand. Eventually they had gripping hands, like Kung Fu gripped hands, but the original ones just had the hands kind of like this. And so that was made for Big Jim and his pals to hold onto this whip to be like a lion tamer or something. And, well, you'll see it when I take it out. A lot of people would have Beastman hold it by the hand grip, because that's the easiest way for his gripping hand to hold it. But what I always did was, Beastman had the open hand. This one has the open hand too. I just kind of slid the whip onto that. I figured that was the way you were supposed to do it. I didn't know any better. I was too young for Big Jim. I never had those. So he's got a mini comic, which is the same mini comic as all the other figures have in Wave 1. What I did find out recently is that there actually are variations of the mini comic, and I've got one of them here. I think my He-Man came with it, but you can see the main difference is the font at the bottom is different. This one uses a much better font, I think. And also, He-Man's head has been redrawn, and I think that was a good move, because the first He-Man head, well, it doesn't look bad. I think the second one looks much better. Okay, so he's got rubber bands, and like I always do with the rubber bands, I'm going to take my handy-dandy X-Acto knife and just cut them off. And that's going to make my life a whole lot easier. And he's got his accessories taped to the back of the bubble here. I'm going to go ahead and cut those loose also. I think I can just kind of roll it off a piece of tape after that. And much like He-Man, all of his accessories are rolled up into the bag and taped very tightly. So we'll see if that causes any warping. Oh yeah, the other difference on the mini comics that I noticed, and I looked through the inside and I didn't notice any differences on the actual pages that were that obvious. There might be some, but nothing I could pick up just on a glance. The other difference is there's this little line of type down at the bottom of the back cover, and it says, each sold separately, subject to availability. Colors and decorations may vary. That's on the, what I believe is the more common version. At least it's more common in my collection, where I have 3 of this one and only 1 of this one. And that one has no type at the bottom, except for like the little teeny tiny 2019 Mattel. So, alright, let's get Beastman out of the package. And what I noticed on comparison, when people would put the vintage figure next to the newer figure, I didn't notice it so much by itself, but when they were put together, this is an empty can, by the way. This is why I stuffed the rubber bands in there. I'm about to throw that away anyway. I'll just leave it there for now. What I noticed in comparison is that the orange is much brighter on this figure. It's almost kind of neon orange, but that really pops on the shelf. Also, at least according to my memory, the white on Beastman's face was much more of a true white, and this is almost like a really, really light beige. It's kind of off-white. And I figure that's because on the Filmation cartoon, they colored it kind of like this pale flesh color, and they probably wanted it to not be the same exact color as his teeth, so they probably decided to make it more like the Filmation artwork because of that. I don't know, though. They could have given him yellow teeth. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. And you can see he's got, like, the kind of Kiss makeup like the original figure had, with the blue around the eyes and a little blue on his lip. So, his harness is really rubbery. If you remember the old harness, it was kind of rubbery, but kind of stiff. And this is you can see like how floppy that is. It's not bad; it'll stand up on its own, but it's definitely the sort of thing where, like, if you had the original figure, you know the difference. So let's go ahead and take that off, because I want to look at the whole harness. And you can see the underside of it has, like, almost no detail on there. It's just kind of, like, hollowed out. So, and then he's got, like, this always threw me off, is, like, it's on the original Beastman too, where it looks almost like a hand grip that's there. But, like, you can't really fit the hand on there, but it looks like it's supposed to be a hand grip, you know? It's got, like, these 4 little divots, like it's, you know, the same size as his fingers. So you would think it goes on there. One of the things I always liked about Beastman is he has, like, these kind of spikes on his hands. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be brass knuckles or some kind of decoration or whatever. In some of the mini comics, they show him, like, firing laser blasts out of his hands. And, kind of speculated that might be a weapon in that regard. It gives Stratos a weapon, since he's got the same hands. And there's the open hand, like I was talking about. And you can see the fingers are much more splayed widely than He-Man's. One thing that I really don't like about this figure, and I was worried about this when I saw the pictures, and it's even worse than I thought, is his feet. Which, if you look at his feet, he doesn't have any toes. It's like little sock feet. And I don't like that one bit. Now, the original figure kind of had that going on, but I always kind of chalk that up to, well, the molding technology probably wasn't that great at the time. They weren't able to get the kind of detail on the toes that they really wanted to. If you look at the cross-cell art, where like you can see like he's got like beastly toes, and they're just kind of scored on there. They're kind of half-heartedly, like somebody just kind of took like a knife and just kind of made like, 4 little spaces in between his toes. And this one doesn't even have that. It literally just looks like Spider-Man or something. Like how Spider-Man's feet are usually done, where they're just kind of, or Plastic Man, where it's just kind of like these toeless feet. There's nothing, not even the scoring is on there. And this was a bad call on Mattel's part, I think. I think Mattel should have coughed up for those toes. Now, what I'm probably going to do because of that, because I hate that so much, and because Stratos is going to have the same problem when he comes out, is I'm going to get more of these Rey Mysterio figures. I love this Rey Mysterio figure. He's so cool. And I'm going to take the boots off of him, because you can, remove the lower part of the leg. Just take the boot off. I'm going to scrub that question mark off of there, which will give me a plain red boot. And I'm going to put the red boots onto Beastman and Stratos. So, because they had red boots on the Filmation version, so I figured that's canon, right? That counts. So I can put the red boots onto them, and I won't have to have these stupid sock feet on them anymore. So, if they were going to give them, like, if they just really were that against giving Beastman and Stratos toes, they probably should have just given them red boots like the Filmation versions to begin with. And that would have looked way better. I would have rather them both have toes, if it was me. But I would rather they have boots than these stupid sock feet that I hate. And that bugged me when I was a kid, and it bugs me even more now, because now you don't have the excuse of, like, having to have the molding technology catch up with the artist's original vision. Yeah, I'm going to talk like that when I'm talking about action figures. If you watched the documentary that's on Netflix, The Powers of Grayskull, and if you watch The Toys That Made Us, and you saw, like, the thought that people like Mark Taylor put into this line, yeah, they deserve to have their vision respected just like any other artist. I don't care if they were just making children's playthings. They were making children's playthings with, thought and artistic integrity. And, if you listen to Mark Taylor talk about He-Man today, it's obviously something that he has a lot of pride in and cares a lot about, like, on a personal level, like the characters and the mythology. Alright, so, I'm pretty sure Beastman just uses the same upper arms as He-Man. I get Prince Adam here that I can demonstrate. Which, the original figure did not have the same arms at all. It had completely different arms. Because, since it makes more sense to just reuse the upper arm, though, because why make a slightly less muscular upper arm for the other characters when, you've already got, like, a perfectly good upper arm? You might as well use that one. And the same with these thighs. I'm pretty sure these are the same exact thighs that He-Man has. And those shouldn't be either, because, the original figure, he's supposed to have, like, an ape-like stature. So they gave him longer arms and shorter legs so that he would be more ape-like. And it wasn't that much shorter, so I couldn't really blame anybody at Mattel if they didn't notice this go-round. And they were just kind of like, oh, well, he's got furry lower legs, so make him some furry lower legs, and didn't really think too much about the thighs. And I don't know about the length on the upper arms. I never really thought to check. But the upper arms might even be longer. But whatever. He's still got longer forearms. You can compare, again, on Prince Adam. So he's got longer forearms than the standard He-Man figure by about, I'd say, a quarter of an inch. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but on a 5-inch figure, it works. So I don't mind the legs being longer. That's fine. And you can really squat them down if you really want to try to get as close to that look. If you wanted to be shorter. But I figure most people would probably want Beastman to actually be taller anyway. When they did that in the original figure, they probably didn't give too much thought to it and figured kids probably wouldn't notice. But whatever. So he's got the shoulder armor that the original Beastman had. It's a different mold because the original ones had a separate piece for the strap. And I remember that the plate would always fall off of the strap. Even though it was supposed to be glued on, it didn't really stay on very well. Okay, so let's see if we can get this on here. It's got like a little teeny tiny peg. It's much smaller than the peg that was on the original figure. I'm going to put his arm all the way out. So that way I can try to get it in between the crook, between his tricep and his bicep. And that's probably where it's going to fit in the best. There we go. So stretch it on that peg. And hopefully that'll fit on they'll stay on pretty well. I think it's going to keep his arm from going all the way down to the side, but that's okay. He can kind of beastly, or Beastman. I kind of think of him as sounding kind of like a Klingon. Now, how the Klingons talk like this, like they've got a mouthful of false teeth. I don't know if John Irwin really did it that way on the show. I don't remember him doing it that way, but that's kind of how I imagine Beastman is talking. I always thought of him as being kind of like the Klingon of the Masters of the Universe figures. And if you look at him, like the way his head is sculpted, he looks a lot like a Klingon, like as they looked on Star Trek the Motion Picture, where he's got like that smooth, bald head, but it's got like the single ridge of bumps up the middle. So I kind of figure, yeah, maybe he was a little inspired by the Klingon. So there he is, fully armored up with his shoulder armor. And then we've got the whip, which this is actually not the same mold as the Big Jim whip. This is a brand new mold of Beastman's whip. And I can tell by looking at the handguard, because it has a slight curve to it, and it's a bit thicker than the old handguard. This looks like it's actually sculpted to be a handguard, and not just sculpted to be a little plastic strap that holds the figure's hand on. And as I recall, Beastman's whip on the original figure, you can see how it looks almost like a telescope. See, where it's got like this section and then this section. And I'm pretty sure the old one was just like a solid tube. And it was a tube that was hollowed out the end. This one is not hollowed out the end. It's got a little plug stuck in there. Which, this is one thing where Mattel actually went the extra mile and put something in there, but I wish they hadn't, because I remember the old one being hollowed out like this, and when I was a kid, what I did was, since I had the whip in his hand, and like I said, I put it on his open hand, so he could be holding the nice thick part of it there, you know, and you can see he can still do that, but his pinky doesn't quite want to go into the handguard. So it kind of gets bent up like that. That happened with the old figure too. But let's go ahead and put it by the handguard, how a lot of other kids did it. I never thought to do it this way until I saw other kids doing it. Because like I said, I just instantly put it on that hand. So yeah, when I was a kid, I always imagined, since like I said, this was like just kind of a hollow cone, is this, in addition to being a whip, it was also like a horn that he could, like a hunter's horn, like he put it up to his lips and like call all the beasts to attention or whatever. And but it doesn't really work with this one since it's got the plug in the end. So I might try to see if I can just get an actual vintage Beastman whip, because it's not like that's an expensive part to find. It's common as hell. The same exact whip was in the weapons pack, so, you know, I had like 4 or 5 Beastman whips when I was a kid, just because of all the weapons packs I had. The string here is a much thicker string than the old one, and I like that, because it seems a bit more imposing, so he can whip it good. So anyway, I'm glad to finally have Beastman as part of my collection. Somebody he can boss around and call a bumbling boob and tie his whip into a knot and throw him out of Castle Grayskull. And poor loyal Beastman, always being abused by Skeletor and just taking it. He doesn't seem like he's the kind of guy who would just take abuse like that, but he lets Skeletor boss him around and just be a jerk to him and everything like that. I don't know, whatever. He was saying he was kind of useless without the power of Snake Mountain behind him, so maybe he's just that desperate to hold on to the power that he has, he's willing to let Skeletor treat him like crap. Anyway, speaking of people who Skeletor treats like crap, I've got an Evil Lyn figure to open up, so that's going to be it for this video, but stay tuned for that one, because that's going to be coming up. Alright, have a good one. Bye.